Excuse me. That did not come out right. Good evening and welcome. I'm Nancy Waldrop, Vice Chair of WNC Sierra Club, and we're so glad you could be with us this evening, especially considering all the parking problems. And hopefully, we were not expecting that. I'm sure you weren't either, but hopefully a few more people will be wandering in as we progress with the meeting. This should be another great program tonight, and it will be featuring Brendan Roberts of Curbside Management Recycling, or better known as Curbie. And I don't usually do this, so you'll have to bear with me. Where did it go? The slide is not changing. That's a, so now you would have to do it. Okay, no, I'll just hit this again. Okay, thank you. Okay. Before getting started with the Curbie program, we need to take a moment to say thank you to Ollie and the Reuters Center at UNCA for hosting our monthly programs and all the quality tech assistance that they so graciously provide and we so much need. It is Ollie's mission to promote opportunities to thrive in life's second half through the programs in lifelong learning, leadership, community service, and research. The Sierra Club motto is explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. When you join our local Sierra Club, you join the national and state Sierra Clubs as well. As part of the National Sierra Club, you will receive a monthly magazine on national issues and projects. At the state level from Raleigh, currently the major project is wood chips. Our major project locally at the moment is upcoming elections, specifically finding poll workers for our endorsed candidates. You will hear more about this effort momentarily from our political committee chair, Ken Brain. It is also our custom at Sierra Club to take a moment at each meeting to acknowledge with respect that the land we are on today, beneath our feet, is the ancestral land of the Cherokee. We thank them for protecting our forest and our environment for so many generations. Tonight, we are once again offering both, excuse me, both an in-person meeting right here at the Reuters Center and a Zoom format for our program as we do the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. Also each month prior to our program, we have a leaders meeting, which is open to anyone interested in helping us. And at these meetings, we determine future programs and other projects. The meeting begins at 5 p.m. and should you be interested in joining us, please contact Judy Maddox at judymaddox15@gmail.com. Sierra Club plays an important role during the election, supporting our candidates by handing out our endorsed candidate cards. For this purpose, we need many volunteers to stand at designated polls handing out these cards during early voting, which begins on February the 15th and runs through Election Day, March the 5th. Sierra Club actually only needs people Thursday through Sunday during this three-week period at 6 voting sites around the county. The 6 sites are the South, East, West, Black Mountain, and Inca Libraries, and the Weaverville Community Center. On Election Day, Tuesday, March the 5th, we will need people at 20 sites around the county. As you can see, we especially need volunteers on Election Day. Instructions telling you what to do or not to do at the polls and needed materials will be provided to all volunteers prior to the shift you sign up to work for. If you are interested in performing this most valuable service, please sign up at wncSierraClub.org. And now our political committee chair, Ken Brain, will share more on this important effort and other news.
Thank you, Nancy. As she mentioned very well, we have a lot of volunteers, but one of the things that Sierra Club does is we look at candidates' voting records, their volunteer records. We do send out questionnaires to them, and we do interviews. And then we make a decision on who the best environmental and most effective environmental candidate will be. And we've got only 8 recommendations for the primary, partially because there's so many uncontested races. And the only thing that'll be on the ballot are contested races. So it's an opportunity to volunteer for 3 hours and help let the voting population know who the environmental candidates are and who are the best candidates in our opinion. We're pretty good shape in terms of early voting sites, except for Black Mountain. We need the volunteers for Black Mountain and certainly for Election Day. If you multiply the number of shifts times, so we need 80 volunteer shifts for Election Day. So if you could help us on March 5th, you can sign up on the way out and we'll be happy to help you, or we can show you how to do that online. Thank you.
Okay. One of the most favorite activities of Sierra Club members is our adult hikes. And I think we have either, I guess it's just Ed Maggart here, one of our hike leaders, to tell you about how those work and how you can join us.
Hey, everybody. Every month we offer one or two adult hikes. We're trying to get to the point of offering two. We just kind of got them started up again last May after COVID. And you can see there's one coming up on Tuesday, February the 20th, and this is just down the road at Bent Creek. And if you've been around the Arboretum a little bit or explored this area, you're probably going to be on some trails with Bill you haven't been on. He's going to do what he calls a lollipop loop that involves 4 different trails. It's about 6 miles, and I think he said about 900 feet elevation gain. So not a huge up and down hill, but it put a pretty good bit of coverage. And if you're interested in this, you can go to the website to sign up. Or if you want to let me know after the meeting, I can give you Bill's email or I can send an email for you. But every month, the hikes are posted on the website. And once you go on a hike, I've got a spreadsheet with about 100 names on it. And we email all those folks directly to make sure they know. So hope you'll be able to join us then. Anyone have a question about that hike or the hiking program? Yes, ma'am. We are trying to kind of vary those. In fact, we had one just last week to Moores Cove Falls in Pisgah National Forest. It's about 1.5 miles and maybe 300 feet elevation gain. So we're trying to have some more challenging ones and some easier introductory ones. And whenever it's posted, it'll tell you the distance and the elevation gain and that sort of thing. So we're going to try every month to have something that'll work for everybody. Okay, thanks.
Oh, and Ed, stay right there with the mic, because one of our greatest accomplishments at Sierra Club is our Kids Adventure Club. And Ed is one of our Kids Adventure Club leaders, and he is going to tell you about that as well.
So there's a national program with Sierra Club called ICO, and our local version of that is called Kids Adventure Club. And it's just what it sounds like. We take kids, mostly older elementary and middle school age kids, out in the woods, and we try to work with populations of kids who have not had the opportunity to be outdoors much because of where they live or culture or family history. And what we've been doing is taking kids usually from places like Stevens Lee Center, who are there after school or on holidays or in the summer, taking them out for an afternoon or a day. We've got a really exciting program coming up now. We're partnering with Asheville Middle School, who has a program called In Real Life. And starting February the 20th for 8 weeks, we'll have a group of about 12 kids, the same 12 kids for 8 weeks in a row from 3:30 to 5 on Tuesdays. And we'll go to relatively close places like Richmond Hill Park or Bent Creek or UNCA to do activities with them and hopefully get them excited about being in the outdoors and feeling comfortable there and wanting to do more with their friends and family. So this is a really fun program for us, and we're excited about the chance to work with the same group of kids over 2 months and build some mentoring relationships. And we actually have a couple of kids from Asheville High who are going to come, and I think they'll do a tremendous job too. If this sounds interesting to you, it's pretty simple. All you have to do is fill out a couple of forms. which you can do online and then send them back to me. And you're registered with Sierra Club. They do a background check. And then anytime you want to volunteer, whether it's every month or once a year, you can. So if you're interested in that, you can read more about it on the website, or again, I'll be here afterwards to chat. Would love to get more folks involved. Thanks. Questions?
Okay, then we had an announcement on, I'm sorry.
I think she had one. You can, yeah, you can also contact Judy as well. Pretty much anybody you know, if you want to contact them, they'll, yeah, thanks for that.
A quick announcement about Energy Savers Network.
Right, about 6 years ago, I was in a meeting just like this. And Alice Wynant was sitting in the corner and she asked, would anybody like to volunteer for Energy Savers Network? And I said, what is that? And she explained that they go into homes, they go into low-income homes with trailers. And so they tighten up the homes for air leakage. Do a blower door test. You learn what a blower door test was. And we have between 3, 5, 2 volunteers, plus the person with the supplies in the truck. Or we have 2 trucks now that shows up, and we could use more people to volunteer. A lot of our ladies, gents of age, you know, I'm 132, but I only give credence to 74. That's as far as I go. But I've enjoyed working with these wonderful people, and it means maybe one midday from 11 o'clock to 3 once a week or once a month, whatever you'd like. But we'd like you to consider Energy Savers Network. Here's my key. And we reduce energy usage rather than put more windmills and things like that. And on, we do the other side, decrease the usage, and we're effective. We are effective. Thank you. You can just come over to me and give me your name and a number.
How about all the people online?
They just go to Energy Savers Network or Greenbuilt Alliance, and the sign up forms are right there. Just click on volunteer, and they'll put you on a crew, and we'll teach you what you need to know. You don't have to be a handy person. You can just, a lot of it's just like, would you change light bulbs? It's a good thing. And every one we change, it's like 75 watts, 100 watts we save. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. A very important endeavor. We appreciate that. And you will want to be sure and put our next month's program in March, the same first Wednesday at 7 p.m., hopefully with not a parking issue, on Bear Wise, How Can We Live with Bears? And it will be again here in person and also as well online. And if you want to pre-register for that online, go to wncSierraclub.org. And now a few technical points before we begin the program that you did come to hear. One, as always, we will be taking questions for as long as you have them after the speaker is finished with the program. So please hold your questions until after Brendan is finished talking. And for those online, you may put your questions in the chat box at any time during the program. We all think we know how to recycle, but if you're like me, you're constantly looking at what you're getting ready to put into the recycle box, wondering, does this really go there or should I put it in the trash? And if you are that person like I am, then this program is definitely for you. Curbside management has been in continuous operation since 1991. And what began as one man collecting curbside residential recycling in a single North Asheville neighborhood has grown into a company now employing 75 plus full-time employees in the areas of collections, processing, maintenance, administration, and sales. Known as Curbie, the company currently holds contracts for the residential recycling collection of 4 different municipalities in Buncombe County: Asheville, Weaverville, Woodfin, and Fletcher, as well as approximately 1,500 businesses and industrial manufacturers throughout the area. Prior to joining the company, Brendan's professional background was in the nonprofit sector, where he served in community development and risk management. Brendan has a degree in business management from NC State and lives in Asheville with his wife and 4 children. And it is now my pleasure to present to you Recycling with Curbie's Brendan Roberts. Let's make him welcome.
Thank you. And thanks you all for inviting me to speak with you about not just our operations, but recycling and what you can do to clean up the recycling streams at your own home. We're going to start off with a video. Curbside, we have our collections arm, but we also operate a materials recovery facility not far from here. We do provide tours to large groups, but we also have a video that you can see exactly what we do right here.
I work at a material recovery facility. It is here where we sort and separate out all the recyclables, but it starts at your home. Our team collects recyclables for over 30,000 recycling customers every week. All of these recyclables are brought back to our facility located in Woodfin, North Carolina. Once the items enter our facility, it's weighed and then it's dumped on the floor inside the building. Our team then pre-sorts the recyclables. It's here where we pull out anything that doesn't belong. They're removing plastic bags and anything that are not recyclables. From here, glass bottles and jars are crushed and removed mechanically. Glass is a wonderful recycled material. It can be recycled over and over again. Next up, cardboard is separated. Cardboard is easily recycled into other paper products. We use 2 optical sorters to further separate the paper stream and the container stream. Sorting plastics is one of the most challenging things in our system because there's so many different types of plastics. We sort the plastic and then bale them up individually. We then separate all the metal cans. Ferrous metal, like soup cans, are gathered up by our magnet, and the aluminum cans are separated by our eddy current machine. Finally, we sort out the paper. Paper can be recycled up to 5 or 7 times, but every time it's recycled, the papers get shorter and shorter until they become a pulp. This pulp can still be made into paper towels, tissue, and other materials. We receive over 75 tons of trash mixed into our recycling each week. This trash can be a major problem for our operation. We have to stop the machines and remove the contaminants before they become jammed or tangled in the machines. We then have to transport the sorted trash to the Buncombe County landfill. This is an additional cost for our organization in both time and resources. You want to help us out? Here are 5 things that you should not put in your recycling bin. Number 1 are plastic bags or film. Plastic bags are a major problem at material recovery facilities. Bags can get caught up in our machinery and cause a lot of problems for us. But the good news is that you can always take these bags back to your local grocery or retail stores. Number 2, styrofoam. Styrofoam cups, plates, egg cartons, and clamshells are all handy products, but they're not recyclable in the current market. You can take these items to any public grocery store to be recycled by DART container. Just make sure that the containers are clean and dry. Number 3, anything that is not a plastic container on the recycling list. Anything that is not a bottle, tub, jug, or plastic jar that comes from the grocery store. Number 4, clothing or diapers. And number 5, wood. Another thing to consider is just because it has a recycling symbol with a number on the bottom of a product doesn't mean that it's recyclable. Please use a visual list just like this one provided by the Recycle Right program. This is the most up-to-date reference to use when determining what can and cannot be recycled. When in doubt, keep it out of your recycling bin. You can also visit the City of Asheville's Waste Wizard website. Once all these materials have been sorted and baled, we ship them off to facilities that make them into new products. Thanks for taking a tour of our facility. If you have any recycling questions, make sure you reach out to us at www.curbie.com. And thank you for recycling.
Okay, that's it. What questions y'all have for me? No, I'll tell you more and go into some more details. So first of all, obviously y'all know recycling helps our landfills. Everything that we're keeping out of the landfill is extending the life of that landfill. Every item that we are recycling is keeping those items out and allowing that item to relive as a new product. So when an aluminum can ends up in the landfill, these statistics come from the Environmental Protection Agency's WasteWise program. It will take 100 years for that aluminum can to break down. Milk jugs, 100 to 400 years, and a glass jar, 1 million years to break down. So I don't know about y'all, but the Buncombe County landfill does not have that much life left in it. So we need to do something. So what you can do is keep these items out of the landfill by putting them into your recycling bin. These are all of the different types of containers that you can put into your recycling bin. So something you might have heard Nancy mention when she was talking about plastics and metals was she specifically mentioned containers, and she went even further to talk about the shape of the container. So all plastic containers should be a tub, a bottle, a jar, or a jug. So a tub, a bottle, a jar, or a jug. If it is not a tub, a bottle, a jug, or a jar, don't put it into your recycling bin. And so that includes plastic clamshells, plastic cups, straws, cutlery, and so on. If it's not a jug, a tub, a bottle, or a jar, it is not able to be recycled. The way that you can prepare those is if your glass, jug, tub, bottle, or a jar, if it has a metal lid, as long as that lid is larger than 2 inches, that metal lid is larger than 2 inches, you can keep that metal lid on there. And what will happen is you notice that in the video, there is those big gears that were grinding. When the glass hits those gears, it's broken and crushed, and it lands on top of a screen. And so all of that broken glass falls through that screen. So if a glass beer bottle goes through there that has a metal cap on it, that cap's smaller than 2 inches, right? So that smaller than 2-inch cap is going to end up in the glass, which creates a contaminant. But if it's larger than 2 inches, it lands on top of that screen, follows on further down the line, and is picked up by that magnet, as you saw. You also want to ensure that there's not excessive food in there. So we get questions frequently about, do I need to wash my jars and jugs and so on? And the answer is no, but you don't want us to throw a half full jar of mayonnaise into the recycling bin. So just a quick rinse will be fine. The other paper products that you can put in there are, newspapers, paper towel holders, toilet paper dispensers, paper egg cartons, cardboard magazines, box paper. But what we want to keep out is food waste. So no grease, no pizza boxes with the greasy bottoms. You can separate that greasy bottom and put the top into the recycling and do something else with that bottom. But you'll also notice that there are no paper cups, paper plates, napkins, tissue papers on there. Those items, the fibers are just too small, and unfortunately, they're not recyclable. We'll get to the questions to the end. The other things that we cannot take are plastic bags, clamshell containers, plastic cutlery, film. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but as you can see, none of these things fall under the categories of bottles, tubs, jugs, or jars. So again, with the plastics, bottles, tubs, jugs, and jars. If it's not a bottle, a tub, a jug, or a jar, it is not able to be put into your curbside recycling. So unfortunately, there's so many things that we think might be recyclable, but they're not. There's a lot of misinformation. That recycling symbol with the chasing arrows, there's misinformation that just because it has that symbol on it absolutely means it's recyclable. Unfortunately, that's not the case, at least in your curbside recycling. There are homes for those, unfortunately, not in your curbside recycling. So corrugated cardboard is recyclable, but it can be tricky. So as I said, there should be no grease or food waste. When you put it out by the curb, you want to be sure that it's broken down and stacked flat. So again, the pizza boxes are the greatest contaminant we get in the cardboard, and so be sure you remove the top from the bottom. Plastic bottles and jugs, tubs and jars, PET is #1 plastic. And so that's typically the water bottles and soda bottles. Those are all sent within about a 3-hour radius of us. And those are recycled into carpets, new bottles, and clothing like fleece and socks. Another form of PET is clamshells. And so a clamshell isn't a tub, a jug, a bottle, or a jar. And the reason why that's not accepted is because it's not accepted anywhere in the United States. That type of PET has a different chemical additives that breaks down differently. And so when these go off to the manufacturers to be made into these new products, as they're breaking down that PET, it breaks down differently and creates an inferior product. So unfortunately, that's why only the bottles and tubs, jugs, and jars are recyclable and not those clamshell containers. Milk jugs, I'll tell y'all, this is actually a little bit out of date. The HDPE milk jugs, so it can be made into new playground equipment, plastic toys, or recycling bins. Our primary manufacturer that purchases HDP from us is creating landscaping piping. So that black bumpy pipes, drainage pipes is what they're primarily made out of, coming out of our plant. Newspaper is absolutely made into new newspaper. Mixed paper is made into a few different products. Hydroseed that's spread around, and insulation is the primary target that our manufacturers are creating that into. Glass bottles and jars, as you heard from Nancy, are endlessly recyclable. As long as you're removing any caps or tops that are larger than 2 inches. And aluminum cans are made into new aluminum cans. Steel cans are primarily made into new steel cans, but they are made into other steel products. And so what we want to talk about more is what you can do to help. To extend the life of the landfills, what can you do to ensure that you're only putting those accepted recyclable items into your bin and keeping out those things that aren't accepted? What happens when we put in an item that is not accepted, if we're a wishful recycler thinking, I'm not sure if this thing is recyclable or not, so I'm going to put it into the bin anyway, and I'm going to let someone else sort it out. That's creating more energy use. So our truck has gone to collect that item from that curbside. It's brought back to our facility. There's energy that's used to separate it. Oftentimes that contaminant can create breakdowns with our equipment. So plastic bags and films get wound up in the gears and can cause breakdowns. And then in the end, once it is sorted out, it has to go to the landfill anyway. So we have to truck it back to the landfill using more energy. The worst that happens, though, is those contaminants get into that good recyclable material. We ship it off to the manufacturer to create that new product, and then that entire load can be rejected. So a load being 40,000 pounds, a semi-trailer, If we have too many contaminants mixed in that, it means that manufacturer is going to have to say, I can't take any of this. And so then that entire load might end up in the landfill. We absolutely don't want that to happen. So what you can do to ensure that you are ensuring that only the good recyclable items are making it into that recycling bin and not putting in any contaminants or bad items is to know your local recyclers guidelines. So curbside management, we collect for Asheville, Weaverville, Woodford, and Fletcher. We're also receiving recyclable materials from all over Buncombe County, Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, and South Carolina. So all of those municipalities, those counties, those businesses that are sending their recyclable items to us, we're telling them all of the same things. These are the things we can take, and these are the things that we can't take, either because we're not able to separate it, or there's not a market for it, or it's just not a recyclable item. There's a lot of myths in recycling as well, a lot of misinformation. Our local newspaper put out some misinformation even as early as today on some recyclable items. So we're working with them to get that corrected. But all of the recyclable items that we're collecting and shipping out are generally going within about a 6-hour radius of our facility, going to other manufacturers to make that item. So if there is not a manufacturer that is able to take a specific item that is within a 6-hour radius of us, it's generally just not economical for us to be able to ship that out to them. And so that's why we might have someone who comes, from the West Coast who says, well, where I came from, this item was not recyclable. Why is it recyclable here? Or in this place where I came from, this item was recyclable. Why can't I do it here? And it is for that reason that our systems are different and our markets are different. So the best thing to do if you are wondering, is this item recyclable or not, is to know your local recyclers guidelines. One of the really good resources that Nancy mentioned in the video is the Waste Wizard. So the city of Asheville has a waste wizard that you can type in any product and they will tell you, yes, that item is recyclable, or unfortunately, no, that item is not recyclable. You can also go to our website, Curbie.com. There's a list of all of those accepted items. There's also flyers for that Recycle Right program as well that shows you by shape and by item. These are all of the things that you can put in there, and those are the items that you can't. So the second thing that you can do is to ensure that those non-accepted items are properly disposed of. So again, we want to keep things out of the landfill if at all possible. In Buncombe County, we are blessed to be able to work with Asheville Greenworks, which holds quarterly hard to recycle events. And so we have one coming up on February 17th at one of the Anka schools. I believe it's Anka Middle School, but there will be several different community organizations there that are collecting some of those hard to recycle items that we can't collect in our regular curbside recycling, but you can bring, and those organizations will ensure that those items are recycled. And then obviously, when you're making your purchases at the store, you can be mindful of the type of packaging that you're using when you are making purchases. So I am happy to take any questions you have about what items are recyclable, our operations, or so on.
Brendan, sorry to interrupt, but we have so many people on the Zoom, which is a really good thing. We're probably going to start with a couple of questions from them, and then we'll come back to you guys. So thank you for your patience.
Okay, let me pull the first of the 21 questions up here. What happens if paper products get contaminated by grease, et cetera, during the pickup process, even after you've been careful at home?
So some minor contamination is not a problem. There are some industry standards that allows for some minor contamination. The reason we want to keep the grease out is paper and cardboard. They're a fibrous product, so their fibers are of varying length. That's why they're only able. They have a recycling lifetime that they can only be recycled a number of times. When those fiber products end up in the manufacturer, they're ground up into a mulch mixed in a water slurry. And so if there's oils and grease in there, we know that water and oils don't mix. And so those fibers cannot stick together. So again, as I said, we're shipping out semi-loads, 40,000 pounds at a time. So a minor bit of contamination is not going to cause a problem. But if we're getting a great deal amount of contamination, that's where there's the problems. So, don't worry about a little bit. But that's where we want to keep the greater contamination out with the food waste, paper plates, paper towels, pizza boxes, and so on.
Lids under 2 inches, can they be cycled if you remove them?
Yes, as long as you can keep them in a different product. So for example, a soda bottle, a PET soda bottle, the plastics are different, right? But you want to keep that cap on there because when it ends up to the manufacturer, it's ground up and they're able to separate those two different types of plastic. So the PET sinks and the PPE that the cap is made of rises to the surface. And so they're able to separate them that way. If you throw a loose lid or cap into the recycling bin that is smaller than 2 inches, it's going to end up in the glass every time. So what you can do better is to help ensure that that cap or lid ends up where it's supposed to be by combining it with another like item. So at my home, what I do is if I have a metal cap that is smaller than 2 inches, I drop it into a steel can and I squish the can shut. And so that contains that cap inside of the can and ensures that it ends up where it's supposed to be.
The same thing would work if you take the lid off with a can opener, put it inside and crush it. Okay.
Right. So if you've got a gable top orange juice carton, for example, they have the plastic lids on there. You want to remove that plastic lid from there because otherwise that plastic lid's going to end up with the paper as a contaminant. But what you can do is take that plastic cap, stick it inside of another plastic bottle, and then it ends up with the other plastic as it should.
And most bottles and jugs have adhesive labels. Is that a problem?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Many of the both cans and bottles have an adhesive label on them.
It's okay to leave those on there.
You can leave those labels on. Thank you. We don't have to try to scrape those off.
No.
Okay. The audience?
Okay, I've got the mic and it's live. Hi. So some of us have pets and we go around, pick up their, you know what? And then when we're done picking it up, we end up with a teeny weeny, very small cardboard tube. Is that recyclable? He's looking blank. Do you know what I mean?
I don't.
My goodness.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm following. Anything that is smaller than 2 inches is going to end up in the glass. So if it's a cardboard tube or a plastic tube, first of all, that plastic tube isn't going to be recyclable because it's not a bottle, a tub, a jug, or a jar. That cardboard tube would be recyclable, but since it's smaller than 2 inches, it's going to fall through the screen into the glass. So just like those other caps, if there is a way to contain it inside of some other paper product, you should do that. My suggestion for that would be, put it inside of another toilet paper roll or a paper towel roll and, crimp the ends, stick it inside of an envelope and fold it up. But, it's following that same concept of trying to keep the like things together so that it doesn't fall through that screen into the glass.
The same thing with little tiny pill bottles that some of us have a lot of.
Exactly.
Put it with some bigger plastic.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
What about larger pill bottles?
If it's larger than 2 inches, then just throw it in your bin.
Okay. And next question is, if it's a small glass bottle, not a problem because that's going to go with the glass anyway. What about shredded paper?
Unfortunately, shredded paper you can't put into your bin because again, the shredded paper is going to fall through the screen and it's not going to end up with the recycled paper. It's going to end up as a contaminant in the glass. What you can do with shredded paper is bring it to a hard to recycle event. The next one is February 17th.
Okay. And that would include, and the worst thing you could do is put all your shredded paper in a plastic bag, garbage bag, and send that in thinking it'll be recycled.
That's right.
Yeah, two things, the envelopes with the little plastic windows and cardboard with the excessive plastic or tape on it.
Yes. So again, going back to the industry standards allow for some level of contamination. The envelopes with the windows aren't going to be a problem. The papers that have, a paper clip in them, that's not going to be a problem. But you do want to ensure that you're removing binder clips, spiral, and paper clips. Those do create too much contamination. So that little window is not a problem. The cardboard boxes, yeah, if it is completely wrapped in tape, then it's not going to be able to be recycled. So I would encourage you when you ship things to not wrap them in tape. Use it sparingly, just enough that you need. But you don't need to completely encase a package in tape. I will add to that also, there is a very large company that sends packages that they are made of paper that are, they say recycle me on them. They are better than the plastic packages. However, even those paper packages are not recyclable. Because the foam that is layered between those papers are a contaminant. That is something that our manufacturer, they were actually shut down for 2 months. Their operations were shut down for 2 months for that specific reason. So unfortunately, you can't always just rely on a label that is on a package saying, recycle me, or this item is recyclable. It's best to go back to your specific.
What about vegetable broth and milk cartons?
Aseptic containers are recyclable. The process for how they're able to separate all of those different layers, I was a little bit beyond my head, but I can tell you that our manufacturers do accept those and they are able to separate all of those layers.
What do you do with the little cap?
The plastic cap, what I would recommend is sticking them inside of another plastic bottle to ensure that they're recycled. Otherwise, since it's smaller than 2 inches, if it's not combined in there, it's going to end up in glass if you put it in your bin.
Let's get a couple of them online here. I think you said earlier, waxed milk and juice jugs are recyclable.
Yes.
Wine bottles sometimes have metal or something on it. That should be removed, right?
A bottle that has metal on it.
Like around the cap, sometimes the screw and cap, there's,
Oh, okay, I'm following. Yes, that should be removed.
and shiny labels on cardboard go with it.
They're fine.
Yep,
They're
okay.
fine. Again, going back to the like a metal cap, again, going back to 2 inches, if you can put that with another metal item that will trap it, that's what you should do. So again, at my own home, we put them inside of a metal can and squish the can closed to keep it in there.
Do you get any recycled materials from Yancey County?
Yes, we do.
Great, thanks. Excellent.
So 2 questions. First, how many tons did you say ends up going to the landfill because it's contaminated? It's a problem. 70, did you say 75 tons a week?
I did not say how many tons a week.
Okay.
I'm not able to share tonnage with you. I can tell you that our contamination rate is 10%. It's about 10%,
Okay.
which is a lot. But I will tell you comparatively, it is a low percentage in the industry. And that is something that we go after hard. In the video, you saw a line, it's our pre-sort line where all of the material comes onto the line before it's sorted by machines. And so all of those people that you saw along the lines, they're not hand sorting any materials. They're there solely for quality control. All of our materials are sorted by mechanics and machines and robots. But in the pre-sort line, all of the materials are dumped into the plant, goes up on a conveyor line. And we have 4 humans who are standing on that conveyor line, that every single bag that comes across that line, they have to rip open and dump the material onto the sorting line. So all of your materials in your bin should be loose, because if it's not loose, it means, number one, that there's a human that has to rip that bag open and unload it. So again, we're getting materials from all over Western North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, and South Carolina. So all of that bagged material has to be ripped open manually by a person. Secondly, those bags, if they can't see into them, if it's a black plastic bag, for example, they have to assume that it's waste. They're not going to open that bag. It's dropped straight to the landfill. So the fact that we are ripping open those bags is very labor intensive, but that is something that is unique to us. There are many MRFs that don't do that. It is any bagged material they're dropping into the landfill. So we are working hard to reduce that contamination rate, again, to prevent the good recyclable materials from going to the landfill.
So we are in Haywood County, west of you. If that, does that county, I assume, do they bring their recycled materials to you
We do receive materials from Haywood County.
and they bring it to you, or do you pick it up?
It is brought to us.
Okay. And let's say it's largely, it has a lot of contaminants in it. Does it go to the Buncombe County landfill or does it come back to our landfill?
If it is sorted at our facility, it goes to the Buncombe County landfill.
Thank you.
Do you do anything for Hendersonville or Henderson County?
We do receive all recyclable materials from Henderson County.
Okay, so the rules will be the same.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I have a question. Mason jars, okay. And what if you put something in the recycling bin and it breaks? Do you have to take it out like glass?
No, because we're going to break the glass anyway. So yes, a mason jar is absolutely good.
Okay.
Again, bottles, tubs, jugs, jars, those are all good.
And that metal lid goes into a separate, or can I just put metal lids like a mason jar lid?
As long as the lid is larger than 2 inches, you can put that into a recycling bin.
And you said aluminum foil cannot be recycled, but does cardboard have to be corrugated?
No, it doesn't.
You'll accept it. Good.
I have a question. Maybe I'm just dense, but the cap on a gallon milk container
Yes, ma'am.
seems to be less than 2 inches.
Mhm.
So do you remove it or do you screw it back on?
Leave it on the milk. Leave it on the milk jug. If it is a gable top, a paper product, remove it.
Right.
But a plastic milk jug, keep it on there.
And these plastic shipping bags go to the grocery store. Amazon,
I'm not certain.
you're not sure.
I'm not. I'm
And then
not
they
certain.
say it's recyclable, but you have to remove the label, which you can't get off. It's impossible.
I can tell you Curbie does not accept those.
Right.
That specific product, I don't know.
Can we recycle old books?
You can recycle old books at hard to recycle events. The next one is February 17th.
And
Amazon bag, I wonder if you contacted Amazon and say, what am I supposed to do with this? Oh, okay.
I got real concerned, so I searched Amazon and eventually the computer sent me to some company that was supposed to tell me how to recycle, and they didn't. So my solution is I take all of those things and I take them down to Whole Foods.
I just have a comment. I did call about recycling clothes because they do it in Hendersonville. Old clothes that you cannot reuse that are more like rags. And I believe H&M also takes them into the mall. And I go to a farmer's market where there's a woman who she sells jams and preserves and things and can always use mason jars. So people should learn to find a place that they can.
Absolutely. You can reuse items before you ever try to recycle them.
So, and I just want to know, when you said there's a contaminated truck, do you have to clean it when it comes back?
Um, it's very situational. If we can, we always want that load to be returned to us. And what we do when it's returned to us is we break open those bales and we resort it again.
Just one other comment. I was just up in Northern Kentucky across from, Northern Kentucky.
Hold it right.
Okay, up. They actually had outside waste baskets, metal ones, square ones, to hold pizza boxes specifically. So it was kind of in a restaurant row. So there is hope for the future.
A question somebody has is that if I put smaller pieces of paper in a paper bag, can I do that?
Smaller pieces of paper being shredded paper?
No, just like
Okay.
something less than 2 by 2.
Post-it.
And that's too wide, too long, not too deep.
Yeah. I would say a post-it, we say a post-it shouldn't go into your recycling because it's smaller than 2 inches. I always make sure that I stick the post-it onto a larger sheet of paper. The thing with a paper bag is the bag is going to be ripped. As it's going through the sorting process, the bag is going to be ripped. And so that smaller item is probably going to come out.
Maybin's trash requires we place recyclables in a blue bag. Do those go to you, or are they taking it out before it gets to you, or how does that work? Or do you do Maybin's?
We receive all recycling from Henderson County. And as the MRF that is processing it, we would prefer, and we do ask all of our haulers to work with their customers on delivering loose recyclables, never bagged.
So they need to tell Maybin to change the rules.
8.5 by 11 sheets, like copy paper. Should we not rip that up so it's smaller? Should we leave the copy paper full 8.5 by 11, after it's had writing on it, whatever, and we want to recycle that? Sometimes they rip it up. They shouldn't.
I'm assuming you're asking because it might have some private or sensitive information on it.
Well, that, and just, is it bad for your recycling to rip the paper?
It's not, as long as the paper is larger than 2 inches. If it's being ripped, because most people, you're shredding paper because it's a sensitive document that has information on it that you want to protect. And certainly you do want to protect lots of information. What I would suggest is, again, bringing shredded paper to a hard to recycle event. If it's possible to not shred that paper in some way by removing identifying information, either by cutting that out or blacking it out in some way, that might be best. But I wouldn't recommend ripping paper into smaller sheets than 2 inches.
And one other thing is the Aldi's and these places sell everything in like berry boxes, clear, and everything's wrapped in plastic, everything in the store.
Mhm.
That should be a problem, wouldn't it? I mean, you can't recycle those boxes, can you?
Those plastic clamshell containers are not accepted as recyclable anywhere in the United States.
And receipts, as long as they're at least 2 inches, you can include those, right?
That's right.
I have a question which you may not be able to know the answer to, but do you have a sense, we've learned tonight what is recyclable? So in Buncombe County, do we know how much your recycling service is capturing that? And what percentage is going directly to the landfill and bypassing your recycling facility?
That would be a tough estimate. Um, we, we definitely do work with the municipalities that we serve on participation rates of, the, in the city of Asheville, there are X number of residents that live in the city. And we know that there are, X percentage of residents who participate. And so we can make estimates based on that. But it would be a very rough estimate.
Would you say the percentage that you capture would be low in 50%, broadly speaking?
I would say that there is a large percentage of recyclable items that are going to the landfill.
One more statement. To me, and I'm sure we're all here tonight because we want to do the right thing and we're all committed consumers to trying to deal with plastic and recycling. But knowing how many things there's no market for that continue to get manufactured, that you see down the grocery store aisles time and time again, all these containers, all these takeout containers, to me, at times it feels like we're rowing a rowboat against a gale force wind. And I think ultimately the ultimate solution is to go after the plastics industry and the manufacturers of these things to at least insist that what they manufacture has a widespread market and has a life cycle recycling solution to it.
And there is legislation coming across in many different states, Maine, California, and Colorado specifically, but in other states as well that are doing exactly that.
I assume it's not okay to put an aluminum cap inside a steel can.
No.
Okay. I want to clarify that the Amazon packaging you're referring to is the envelope that says, "Treat me like a paper bag." Is that what you're referring to? The brown ones, it's not the white plastic, but the brown
I
ones. it
don't
says-
recall exactly what it says on it, but it does indicate that
I
it's recyclable.
think it says, "Treat me like a paper bag," and I've been doing that, so I will stop doing
That
that.
item is not recyclable.
Okay, and I want to make one comment. This is not a complaint because I feel sorry for the guys that are out collecting in the rain because they roll the bin over to the truck and then they roll it back. And they always leave it right in the middle of my driveway. That's okay. But when it's pouring down rain, I don't understand why they can't just close the lid.
They're helping you to clean your cart.
Okay.
But realistically, the open lid is a signal to them where they've already been. But it does clean your bin.
I do a lot of work in the schools and I'd like to know, there's so many cartons, right? There's milk cartons, there's juice cartons. Can teachers be putting those in their recycling bins? And the cafeteria, can they be recycling those?
Yes.
There's billions of them and I don't know what it's gonna take. Like some of the teachers, they don't even have their blue thing out. They have it like books in it. It makes me nutty. But I can tell them now, you said definitively they could put those cartons ready for recycling.
Yeah, milk cartons, juice cartons, bottles, tubs, jugs, and jars, those are all recyclable.
Great, thank you.
And every public school in Buncombe County and City of Asheville schools all have recycling services.
But thank you.
Do you have an estimate for how many residents or population you actually serve through your facility?
I do. For the contracts that we serve, for the municipalities that we service, that is public information for those municipalities. But I cannot speak to the municipal contracts. But again, we serve the curbside recycling for residents in the city of Asheville, Weaverville, Woodford, and Fletcher. So you can just look up how many residents.
But all
live
of
there.
Buncombe County's recycling comes to you,
Yes,
and all of Henderson County's comes to you.
yes.
So you're probably doing 500,000.
Are all those municipalities following the same rules, or are there different rules in different municipalities?
They are all following the same rules.
Or not following?
They're all given the same instructions. If it is a fiber product, it's recycled with the mixed paper. We're not able to separate a compostable item from a non-compostable item. So if it is a fiber product, it's going to be recycled with the paper. If it is some other type of product like a paper plate, even if it's compostable or a takeout container, then that is going to end up in the landfill. So if it's a compostable product, my suggestion would be the city of Asheville and Buncombe County have a really great compost program where you can take those things that are all conveniently located throughout the city, that you can ensure that those items are properly composted. Or you can do it in your own backyard.
And then somebody online said those small pieces of paper, they're too small to be recycled. They can be composted. One of the questions, and I think you may have answered this earlier, so I apologize for asking it again. Prescription bottles, as long as they're greater than 2 inches?
That's right. As long as it is larger than 2 inches, you can toss it into your bin. If it
With
is
or without the top?
with the top.
With the top.
If it's smaller than 2 inches, put it inside of a larger container.
Since plastic and film plastic and plastic containers for like berry boxes are ubiquitous, I mean, just everywhere. Is there any way that people that companies are turning them into brick or turning them into melting the plastic or taking the plastic, or the things that they can do to recycle them into building materials that you know about?
That is a very interesting question. I don't know the answer to that.
Because if it was, that whole extra stream could become bricks, blocks.
I'm sort of tiresome back to that paper package that says, treat me like a paper bag. Some of them do have foam in them and others don't. Some just have like a little corrugation. It's all paper. Is that okay?
If it's 100% paper, absolutely.
Okay,
It's the foam
right. Yeah.
layering
Okay. And
that
second,
creates the problem.
someone mentioned here about the plastic bags. That's not your, about the shipping bags. And I know you can take the REI bags to REI and they just take off the paper label. But like, can those go to a grocery store? Yeah,
Have to ask the grocery stores.
yeah, I always cut the label off. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I was just gonna let people know that in our county, we have offered our farmers markets, the vendors at the farmers markets, clamshells. We've collected them because they like to use them for their berries or small,
To reuse them, yeah.
Cheeto peppers, small stuff. Now, I don't want everybody, if everybody here goes and inundates the vendors with clamshells, but it is a way of recycling.
Also, the West Asheville Market will take egg carton, but even plastic ones, and give them back to farmers to use. So that's another second life for those before they go to recycling.
Okay. Yeah, I'm new here. I moved from Michigan in June. I retired from teaching elementary school. And I've always been, I actually retired as the recycling queen at my school. They did a little thingy for it and everything, but, and I feel like I'm very knowledgeable, but sitting here, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I don't know. You know, it's almost like we could all have a question, a different question for you, and there's all these like exceptions to the rules. How do you communicate to, the community about what, I mean, I know that there's a flyer on your website. I've hung it in my kitchen,
Yeah.
my family sees, but you know, it's just not enough. I mean, what else can we do? Or-
Well, I think first is absolutely, there's so many exceptions. But we want to start with, just getting the basics right first. So getting those basics right, and dispelling the myths, of people who say, recycling is a myth or plastic is never recycled. It's all going to the landfill anyway. There is a large portion of plastic that's going to a landfill. We don't want to send plastic to the landfill, not just because we don't want to fill up the landfill, but just economically, it's an expense for me to send something to a landfill. When I send an item to a landfill, I have to pay for that. And so just from a business perspective, I don't want to do that. So I think to answer your question is absolutely, there's lots of exceptions. There's lots of little nitpicky things that you can do to get better. But if you are just starting off with the basics of, looking at a plastic container and saying, is it a bottle, a tub, a jug, or a jar? Nope, it's not recyclable.
And then my second question is kind of, being an educator, I'm retired now, but one of my goals in my retirement was to go to the schools and talk to the kids and the teachers and the staff about recycling, but it sounds like you already have that going on here.
There is, both Buncombe County and the city of Asheville have full-time recycling coordinators that they're responsible for education, and they do work closely with the schools. I won't speak for them, but I feel confident that they would welcome any volunteers
That's what I
to
want.
work with them.
Okay, so just contact a school or something. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I know the answer to this, but when you get recyclables in a plastic bag and you have these plastic bags left over, do they go in the landfill?
Unfortunately, they do. Those plastic bags that the grocery stores are recycling, they're taking those because they're clean. They're not dirty. When something comes into our plant, it is very dusty, very dirty. Just the dirt and dust on those bags make them too far contaminated to be usable. But those plastic bags that you're taking to the grocery store to be recycled, those are clean. And so obviously there will be a small bit of contamination. You have to expect a small bit. Not everyone is, things happen. There's going to be some contamination in the bags. But those are primarily being made into lumber products. Trex Decking is a brand that the actual lumber on the inside is made out of recycled plastic bags. The coating around it is a virgin plastic, but the lumber itself is recycled plastic bags.
And one of the things that we all worry about is what about all the things we can't recycle and things like that. And I've got something for you for that. Two things. We had a coalition of groups, environmental groups locally, working to try to get a plastic bag and styrofoam ban. The state legislature in their budget slipped in a provision that says no city can do that or no county can do that. So what we're doing now is we're looking voluntarily to remind people to bring your own bags when you go shopping. And anytime you're shopping someplace and they offer you a plastic bag, ask for a paper bag or tell them to please stop using paper bags. For takeout, please tell them to stop using styrofoam. There's other substitutes, but that's something we can all do.
Getting back to finding homes for things. So we have two wonderful Habitat stores, one in Asheville and one in Weaverville. They welcome your plastic bags, peanuts, any packing materials so the customers could use those. So that's one thing. And then our teachers, schools often need your yogurt containers or your other plastic containers for art projects and so on. And also I take containers with lids to Haywood Street congregation. They have a feeding program, and sometimes the people want to take leftovers homes. So you can check with them as well as other feeding programs in the community. Thank you.
Going back to the card, oops, thank you. Going back to the cardboard, I noticed like there's a new trend, like a tape to close the cardboard. It has like plastic strings in it. Can that be an issue?
If it's excessive, yes. And so, you know, you don't need to completely encase packages in plastic tape. But just a little bit is not a problem.
It's not like plastic tape. The tape itself is like paper. But inside the paper, there is string. So it's not tape I use. It's like packages I receive, like that big company that does shipping, and this that.
Okay, I'm familiar with what you're saying now. Yes, again, that is a minimal amount, and so that is fine.
Yeah. Okay. And there are also like other packages, like cardboard packages, where there's a bunch of copper staples to keep it secure. Should those be removed?
Yes, remove the staples.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, yes, give Brendan a hand. I think we have all learned a whole lot tonight. I know I will be leaving with being much better informed if I can remember it all. And remembering now I've forgotten what they were, but the jugs, the bottles, the tubs and jars. Sounds like the thing the doctor asks you when tell you to remember 4 words. That was good. Okay, but again, thank you, Brendan, for being here and sharing all this with us. And thanks to all of you for weathering the parking lot situation. And we do hope you will come back next month in March for another meeting with us. Enjoy.
Come back next month and learn about bears, how to live with bears, because they're here.